Hello, friends. Welcome to Medical Billers Network Live, the Lunch and Learn edition. This is our first time here so early in the day. And you guys, I feel like a new person. This is exciting. You guys don't know this. We've been running these Medical Billers Network Live for a while now, probably the last couple of years, and doing them later in the evening. And it's just been a lot, right, for us to stay present late into the evening. I'm an early bird, an early riser, so I'm excited to try out this new Lunch and Learn for size, try it on for size, and I would love to know what your thoughts are on that. So you can totally, when you get here, pop in something in the comments and be like, do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you wish it was later? Just curious. Let me know that you are here. Say hello right here in the comments on wherever you are. Hi, Christy. Great to see you. Thanks for being here. I'm sorry, question of the day. I'm looking at the question of the day. It says, what do you think that billers do? What do you think that medical billers do? If you have no or little experience with medical billing or medical billers, what do you think that goes on? What do you think goes on behind the scenes? And if you're watching this on the replay, you can hashtag replay and put that in the comments or the description. What do I call this? They're comments. They're also comments in the comments, which are going to be below the video. All right. So if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Jasmine. I have a couple of decades plus experience in the world of medical billing and the business of healthcare. And on this channel, we specialize in alleviating the stress and confusion in the business of healthcare. On this specific platform of this channel, for these Thursday lives, we are geared specifically to medical billing and medical billers. And today we are talking a little bit about the discussion around what exactly a medical biller does, because it was a question that came from Analog Fog, someone in our community that wanted to know that from the perspective of a software. So we're going to talk about a medical billers. Yay. Oh, hi, Benita. Yes. Awesome. I like that. I can watch while I'm at work. Yeah, thank you so much for that feedback. Hi, Benita. Great to see you. So we are going to look at a software together. There is going to be a screen share, which I know typically whenever we do I do something sharing on the screen, it usually makes you have to kind of like zoom in. So feel free to switch devices to a computer or something else that is larger whenever you feel the need or comfortable with to get yourself comfortable with the screen share. Also, when you have questions and whenever they come up, ask your question. I am going to peek at the comments throughout so that we can kind of plug the answers in during our time together, because we're going to cover a lot of ground today. And we're going to try to do that in a shorter time, because our goal is to get you into your lunch hour or whenever you're actually able to kind of be a little bit more focused, more present. So we'll try to shrink these down to at least 30 to 40 minutes if we can. So that's our goal. Fingers crossed. Here we go. So we today are looking at a software. So I'm going to screen share. But before I do, I want to say a couple of things. First thing is, this is a demo system. So there are going to be some features that I cannot run. So you're not going to see me run through transactions. There are names, but they are all fake names. We are not opening up PHI for anybody, which is the protected health information. If you're not familiar with that, it's really important that you know that when we are in a testing environment or in a demo environment, there are things that are turned off. So I won't be able to show you how to transmit claims and receive things because it's fake information. We're not really connected to a network that can send and receive information. All right. So with that said, today when I go through the content, and if you're like want to know a little bit more, or you want to ask questions about specific things that the software does, I'm happy to answer them as long as it stays kind of around that topic. And if it feels like there's something else that we could do a deeper dive into, we'll probably peel that topic off to a later date. All right. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen. So today we're looking into the software that's called Open Practice Solutions. At our billing company, we work in a few different solutions. We work in a few different softwares, and we have experience a lot more from consulting and working with clients over the years. This system is one that is really great because it serves billers very, very well. It also focuses a lot of effort on the revenue cycle management pieces. So it does not have a clinical side, which means that it actually has the ability to be a bit more agnostic. It doesn't require that you use the EHR system that it has built inside of it, which is the common issue that we have as billers, is that there's an EHR that's built and then a PM system or a billing system that's attached to it. And one usually works better than the other, and you're kind of stuck when you've got this all-in-one solution. So this is a great system where we have the flexibility to connect with other systems as long as those systems allow us to connect with them, right? That's one thing. But then also it allows us to, as a billing company, to have multiple clients under one access, right? So it makes it possible for us to kind of navigate in and out of our child sites or child databases to be able to serve our clients in an individualized basis. So they do not have access to each other's systems and their information is not all in one place. It is one server that has like children underneath it, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. And let me say one other couple of things, looking at my list of things here. So first thing to know today, we are talking about medical billing as an end-to-end biller. So there are a lot of styles, we'll say, of the roles that you'll see out there in the job market. So if you are, for example, looking for a position as a payment poster or as a claims management team member or someone who is specializing only in accounts receivables or an AR analyst or something like that, right? Those are areas of medical billing that are very targeted. And what we see often is that those individuals that are hired for those specific roles are going into a larger organization typically where they have more more narrow responsibilities because there are other individuals that fill the gaps in for revenue cycle. So depending on the size of the organization, the structure of the organization, those are the things that are going to define whether or not you are going to have all of the responsibilities that we're going to talk about today or just a very narrow scope of them. All right, so the view today, again, is an end-to-end biller, which means from the start to the finish. And so we'll talk a little bit about the possibilities of those roles and know that there are end-to-end billers in a lot of small to mid-sized private practices. All right. So again, software is Open Practice Solutions. When I go to share my screen, I'm already logged into our training site. And if I can remember how to share the screen here, bear with me. Let's see. Here it is. All right. There it is. All right. Make that just a smidge bigger. Okay. You guys in the back, can you let me know if it looks okay as far as the size goes? And I just need to quickly rearrange so that I see my chat here as well. Are we good on size? Should I make it a little larger? Oh, I'm getting some choppy, you said? Okay, sorry. We're good on size? Okay, perfect. I see thumbs up. All right, cool. All right, so first things first. This is OPM, we call it affectionately. The company is called Open Practice Solutions. This company has a sister company that's called eTactics, which is their clearinghouse. So which means that you have a solution that has a clearinghouse that is built in. So if you're accustomed to downloading claims and uploading to a clearinghouse, you would not be doing that with this particular software. And that is one function that will differ for our billers out there. Okay. All right. So thinking about the function of a biller. So first thing is I'm getting into the software and you guys are noticing here that I am logged in already to a dashboard that has some things that are presented to me. In this particular software, you have the ability to customize the dashboard, and I would totally recommend you customize it according to what you are responsible for. So as a biller, and if you have your revenue cycle management picture image in your head, you're thinking about what is the first part of the revenue cycle. First part is patient gets referred, right? After that, they're scheduled. So typically, depending on the biller's responsibility, they might be operating from the calendar, which is the schedule, right, for the clinic. So if that's the responsibility of the biller to also be the scheduler, which I have seen, then they're typically going to be operating from one of the appointments that are on this calendar. So I'm going to quickly just pop in a patient, pretend like they're scheduled. So I'm just scheduling them for an appointment, and I'm going to go ahead and save, and I meant to hit save and manage. So we're going to do that again. There we go. That was a good trial run. There it is. And now we're going to save and manage. And oh, it's telling me I have the same appointment scheduled. There's something wrong with the display there where it's not populating the appointments themselves. So, all right. So if I have not the scheduler, but I'm the person who's closing out in this particular software, my responsibility is to operate from this system, from this particular screen, and I might be responsible for checking in or checking in and out my patient. And I will likely be responsible if I'm doing some overlapping responsibilities of the front desk. I might be responsible to enter the charges and the patient payment. So if I see here, it's telling me that this particular individual has a $20 copay, and then here I could be entering in the charges. Now, I didn't mention anything about adding in demographics for my patient or my insurance because that would depend upon the practice. Typically, that is a function performed by the front desk. However, there are a lot of practices that will pass the information back to the biller to confirm. So make sure that the insurance information is put in correctly and that the correct eligibility is present. So in this software, once a person has been entered in, whether you are entering in their demographics and insurance at scheduling or even before that, you have the ability to run eligibility and check whether they are active. And the best thing about that kind of feature when you have the real-time eligibility checking is that it verifies whether or not you have the information entered correctly, which takes care of, fingers crossed, a good portion of the denials that we receive as billers, right? Because a lot of us are seeing denials because of data capture, which means the patient's demographic information, which is their name, address, phone number, date of birth, things that are going to be identifying criteria for them as individuals. And or their insurance information may have been incorrectly input into the software. When you do a real-time eligibility checking, it confirms that information. Okay. Next, if you have the responsibility to enter payments, enter charges, that'd be something that the biller would do from this screen, and then they'd close out and make sure that they do the same thing for the next patient. Okay. So after the individual has finished their responsibility of entering in the information for our patients, then the next thing, let's say they've already seen all 5, 10 patients that they were going to see, and they've entered in whatever they're going to enter. The next thing that they would do is to verify that information. And in OPM, this particular software, we do this typically by utilizing this reference batch feature. So at the start of the day, the biller or whomever is responsible for entering in charges and payments, they are creating a reference batch for that particular day. And then at the end of the day, they're confirming what the charges that were entered were, the payments that were entered, and confirming that that total amount matches the number of patients and so on, matches what they know to be true from their calendar. Okay. So here's an example of that reference batch. So I'm seeing here, okay, there's some payments, the insurance payments that were entered. There's Marilyn Monroe. She made a payment of $130 from the grave. and then we see here that that I've had that I've had some charges entered as well. So I've had 3 different charges, a couple from the president and one from Marilyn Monroe. And then here, if it had demographic information, new demographic information entered, that information would be here as well. So this is what we call our reference batch. And this is a great closeout report or representation of what we would utilize as a daily closeout report. And this is recommended and best practice for any practice, whether or not it is done by the biller, done by the front desk, or done by someone that has a responsibility of a charge entry or data processing person. Whomever's responsibility that is, they should be reconciling their day, this particular type of report, against the calendar so that they confirm, okay, at the end of the day, I have X number of patients that I should have charges for. If I had 3 patients that were seen, that's what I should see here. If I know that I've entered in demographics or new patients, I should see that information on here as well. All right. So typically we recommend that people save this report for their records and make sure that that it's properly closed out when it's ready to go. In this software, it's great. It's not a hard close if you guys are at all experienced in billing where it prevents you from doing things, but there are a lot of opportunities in here for you to utilize reference batches just to hold yourself accountable to going back and checking information before the charges are released. Because if this is open still, it won't allow these charges to go out on a claim, which is wonderful, especially if you find yourself waiting on other individuals for you to get charges or diagnoses or things like that entered in. Okay. So I didn't mention anything about diagnoses. I didn't mention anything specifically about coding and so on, because that depends on the organization as to whether or not, if it's your responsibility. What we will often see is that it is a responsibility of the biller to verify certain charges. So if if it's my responsibility to review charges, okay, then I might have an error like that. Now, I might be able to confirm on here is actually if it's showing up correctly, it would have the diagnosis information, the procedure codes and modifiers and so on this particular screen. And it would give me the opportunity to quickly check in to see whether or not the respective insurance has the appropriate charges associated. For example, some of the Medicare patients might require modifiers, or they might require certain HCPCS codes in lieu of a CPT or a procedure code. So that is a typical type of stuff that a biller might be reviewing or auditing, kind of doing just a quick run through to ensure that payer guidelines match the charges that have been entered. All right. So moving on. So once we have our charges, let me see. I've got a question here. Let's see. Yeah, always best to have two people validating. Yes, absolutely. Would have been helpful for my problem this morning. I love that. Thank you, Christy. That's so real. It's really important that you have different levels of checks. So if you have, say, 3 people at the front desk, let's say you've got at any given time, you always have 3 individuals that are checking patients in, checking patients out, and helping to move patients throughout the office. That is a typical morning shift, and then a whole separate set of 3 individuals in the evening shift. That's 6 people, right? So that's a total of 6 possible errors, people that could produce possible errors. So those individuals need to be checking into their own stuff that they've done, right? So they're doing their own reference batch closeout. And then at the end of the day, whomever is the lead front desk or the supervisor of the front desk, that person then is the one who's reviewing all 6 reports against the schedule and double checking them for errors and things like that. So yes, and then we add, so I said front desk, supervisor or lead, and then you have your biller as well as kind of like that third level eyes, saying, okay, great, everybody did what they were supposed to do to make sure people were eligible and all of that, but maybe they put the wrong HCPCS code for a United Healthcare patient, or maybe they billed this person's insurance, but they're really supposed to be a workers' comp, right? So those are all things that a biller can be there for, and hopefully they can focus on, okay? So thanks so much for weighing in there, Christy. Appreciate you. Okay, so moving on, feel free to ask questions again, you guys, or make comments like Christy did. Thank you for that feedback. We have our charges in. The next thing is to hopefully get our charges out. So claims are going to be created from those charges or from those procedure codes. In this software, once the reference batch closes, it makes those charges eligible for billing. So in this system, you have a few different features that can eliminate the extra work from having to come from your daily responsibilities. So you can do what's called job scheduling, which means that you are scheduling recurring functions to happen. So you can tell it, okay, I want you to batch claims on a daily basis. This is all the criteria that I want you to use, and start this today, but I only want you to go through the end of the year because I'm going to reevaluate and change it, right? So these are all ways that you can create this kind of automated function for the claims to go out on a daily basis without you having to interface with that process. But let's say you prefer to do this manually for whatever reason. You can, because some people, instead of doing things with the batch reference batch review, maybe like to look at information while the claims are ready to go. So you can do that from this claim management dashboard. And I'm not going to walk you through all of the specific ways to do it on this system, because I don't want to get into like a lot more of the kind of detailed user interface stuff. But I can right in here, click on the things that are ready for submission, and I can see my list of claims that are ready to go. And kind of like weird because I have it zoomed in so much. So if I zoom out a little bit, here we go. And I can also, again, look at my patients, look at the billing information that is showing up there. So this is kind of what we'd call like a pre-billing type report. So I can click into each one and verify what that information is. I can go through and make modifications if I need to each of the encounters, which is the date of service here in this software. And then once I'm done, I can go back to that claims management dashboard and I can go ahead and do my batch claims. I could also do it from that screen as well, but I also had some like resubmissions out there that I probably don't need to look at, hopefully, because I would have been the one who set those to resubmit. But if I wanted to do it from this screen, I could select them and do my status change and actually batch those claims to the insurance company and so on. All right. So back to my claims dashboard real quick. On this same screen, and I can see here, look, it's telling me these are things that are supposed to be ready, but you've got open reference batches. So you got to resolve these things before the claims can go out, right? So these are like kind of queued up issues that help you determine what things need to actually be worked on at the moment, okay? So if I'm going back down to this area down here, after I send my claims, let's say I have it set up to do that automatic batching. What I care about, if it's automatically sending those claims out, I'm happy, right? I can double check my batches. So these are ones that down here, it would have those batches listed in this area. And I can also start to work on my rejections. So these are buckets of rejections. So clearinghouse rejections, which are things that eTactics, which is that integrated clearinghouse, would have pulled back for consideration. Those are things that did not get to the insurance company yet. And then the payer rejections, which are things that went to the insurance company but were kicked back, did not make it through the doors of the insurance company because of some missing criteria. So all of that can be worked from here. Again, another responsibility of the biller is to make sure that the claims make it to the insurance company for adjudication. And adjudication is another word for processing, okay? So if I see here some things are to be printed, that means that I got to actually click on these babies and print them out and mail them. And all of that stuff is typically a responsibility of the biller as well. All right. Anything that's here on hold, these are likely things that as a biller, we might have flagged or put on hold ourselves. For example, if I know everything is perfectly fine with this patient, however, I didn't get full confirmation that an authorization was approved. I know we sent the authorization. I know it went out on time and so on, but we didn't get it in hand yet. I don't want that claim to go out the door yet. So I might put that on hold, right? So that's something that I need to be monitoring on a regular basis as well. All right. So now once our claims are out the door, I've worked on my rejections. I'm feeling good about that. I worked on anything that's on hold. Now my claims have made it to the insurance company. They're getting adjudicated or processed, and we are hopefully getting some sort of payment or correspondence back that is going to take me down my revenue cycle to processing those payments. And so I'm going to move my function now to focus on processing payments. Best thing about this type of system is it has an auto posting feature. So I definitely have to do my manual payment posting by, if I have a paper check, entering in the payment information, allocating it, and so on. So manually posting, manually distributing that to the respective patients and so on. However, if I have things set up correctly, I'm getting ERAs, which is electronic remittance advices, which are those electronic payments. electronic EOBs. I'm also hopefully getting electronic payments, electronic deposits, ACHs, EFTs, whatever you want to call them. My money's coming in directly into the bank, right? If all that's happening fine and dandy, I hopefully do not have many manual payments to enter except for maybe secondaries. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this screen, and instead I'm going to go back to now review my ERAs, which are those electronic remittances. And this ones are, I'm going to modify to all because again, it's a testing system just to make sure I see all of them. Okay, so I see the things that the software automatically posted, and I can confirm what I see here. Now, there's a couple of things that I probably want to do. Each day, I need to make sure that I am clear about the amount that has come in, whether that's EFT or on paper check. So whatever paper checks I have, I want to match them to the payments that are in this system in the queue for the ERAs. Let's say I got a paper check, but my ERAs are coming in electronically. Like that's the situation with some of these. It's telling me that with the X that these were not deposited electronically. So I got a paper check, right? But I did get an electronic EOB or an ERA, as we call it. If I have my ERA, I can let the system auto post, but I want the system to auto post ideally on the day that I actually have the check in hand and I'm ready to deposit this check into the bank. So I might be going in here and modifying the date that's being processed for these ERAs that are coming in with paper checks. That's one thing to consider. But then also, same is true if I notice a variance in my dates from my bank statement, if the money's going electronically via EFT or ACH, if I see that that money is showing up a day later or a day earlier, I might want to modify the dates in here as well. So that's one thing that I'm looking to do is just reconcile or confirm the money and where the money is. Once I've done that, I then can do the same thing that I've previously done with my reference batches, make sure that things are reconciling. I might have a deposit report or a reference batch that reflects the payments that went in that day, right? And once that happens, I likely am going to want to save that information wherever I have my EOBs saved as well, the paper EOBs that I've received. Okay. After my payments have been reconciled in the system and I feel good about where things stand in here, I'm going to then focus my attention on anything that might be coming up in here as holds or as denial work list, which means there's a denial that came into the system. And maybe something that that I added to a custom work list, which is some other kinds of ways that you can kind of pull apart information to create lists for yourself, to do other things, like to do other functions to maybe clean up a particular patient's account. So you can be able to add individual remittances or individual claims to your custom work list. Even if the insurance company didn't determine that it was a denial, you might want to manually put that on a custom work list for yourself. So I'm going to click on this one just so you actually, I think I clicked on the wrong one. Need to run it again. I wanted the one that has a denial. Here we go. So this one down here. So this is, when I click on it, I get like a rundown of the information that I just saw on the previous page, a little bit more expansive view of it. So I see that it was successfully able to post 15. 2 of them got put on hold. And this is one that has a denial work list. And I want to be able to work on these items before I move on from my payment posting. So I can do this from this screen, or I can also do it from a collective or holistic view. All right. So I could do one by one with each insurance ERA, or from my home dashboard, I can see this same function here that says denials, and it consolidates all of them and moves them away from specific remittances and puts them in one beautiful view. And this is helpful because what it lets you see is if you have a trend. Okay. So like if I know for a fact I've got 20 denials all for Medicare and they all have the exact same charge, if I click on this and I see that it's all the same procedure code, I know there's something going on, right? There's a problem. So being able to see these in one consolidated view has a lot of benefits, So hi, Larissa. Great to see you, friend. Welcome. Welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. I literally just saw your message there, Christy. Let's see. How do you determine what's most important to do in the day? Ooh, I love this question. So we should have, this is actually a really great topic of how to organize yourself as a biller, because there are so many things that we could do, right? There's like a ton. We're about 60% of the way through, I think. Yeah, over 60%. So maybe 70% of the way through with the responsibilities of most end-to-end billers. The question is like, how the heck do I get to all of that? And like, what's more important, right? So in my book, and I'm going to just give you the quick and dirty answer, Christy. In my book, the most important thing for you to do is to make sure that the potential for revenue coming in is taken care of first. So it's everything that gets the claim out the door. You're making sure the charges are going in, the payments, the patient payments, but the charges, the patient's demographics, the insurance information, all of that basic data capture. You're creating the claim, you're getting it out the door successfully. So you're making sure your claim rejections are done. You're making sure that your payer rejections are monitored as well. And you're working those, because now you have the possibility of at least getting paid for your claims, right? That is an absolute. Those things must be tended to, and they must be priority. After that, there's other functions and things that we're talking about that we will reorganize based on volume. It still needs to be done on a regular basis, but it's going to, how much time you spend, or how much energy you spend on it is going to depend upon the volume. And there's some recommendations or best practices that I could definitely give you. So we'll do that in a separate time, but for sure, at least work to focus on the potential of getting the practice money, which is what they hired you for. So your job is at least to make sure that you are getting the claim out the door. When I see people that are like pulling AR reports and they haven't worked claim rejections, or pulling AR reports and they have this backlog of charges that haven't gone in, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, AR is important, it's great, but if you aren't making sure cash flow is there, then you are like, you're putting a tourniquet right over the practice, and that's not okay. So, all right, I like it. Let's see. I'm the only biller. Yeah, okay. Morning of the posting, afternoon, anything else you can fit in. I like it. Yeah, okay. I have some ideas, and I definitely, I think that there's nothing wrong with you getting the posting and billing out in the mornings. That's fantastic. Get it out the door and get it done. And so let's have a really good detailed conversation about that. I think that's a really great idea for another topic of discussion. All right, so moving back, and feel free to continue asking. I'll remember to check the comments. All right, where am I? Okay, so we worked our denials. We're feeling good about everything that maybe we put on hold that needed some attention. We understood what our trends were, our denials trends, and now maybe we formulated some way to prevent those in the future, which is really, really something that a lot of billers miss the mark on. Is they're so focused on one thing that they aren't thinking about like the one thing at hand. They're looking at each individual thing and not thinking about, what can I do to remove myself from this trend continuing so I don't have this coming up again, right? There are some things out of our control completely. Like if you have a lot of Medicaid population, a lot of your patients aren't renewing on time and things like that. There are practices that help their patients. That's one consideration you could implement or recommend for your practice to implement. Or you individually as a biller start reaching out to your patients and asking if they need help with making sure that their Medicaid is renewed and so on. So, those are things that you possibly could do to prevent, but in most cases, there's a lot of stuff that are kind of our hands are tied, right? Things that denials come in for that we don't necessarily have the ability to do much about it. But if you're responsible for authorizations, referrals, things like that, and your practice sees a lot of that as a specialist office, then you're definitely able to make an impact if you're seeing a bunch of denials for pre-certs authorization or referrals, okay? So moving on. So now we've worked on our denials. We feel great about it. We've posted our payments. We feel great about that. Now, after our payments are in the system from our insurances is the opportune time and up-to-date opportune time to make sure that our patient statements go out. So this is going to depend upon the style of practice, the specialty, all things, but I would recommend that you're sending statements out ideally on a weekly basis. You have the ability to batch for only things that are new. So if a person hasn't come in since last month, they're not going to get that statement again until maybe that 30-day mark, right? You might not necessarily want to send statements to your patients every week if you're like a therapist or a physical therapy office where the patients are coming in multiple times a week, because that means they might get statements every week. But there is an opportunity with different systems to define the criteria. So it might be that the software is only billing certain alphabets, patients' last names, right, during a certain part of each month. So the first week of the month, you might be doing A through F. And then second week, you're going to do G through L. I don't know. I'm just throwing out random letters. But basically, you might choose a certain number of letters based on the volume of patients that you have in each. It's really important to know that. There's some practices that I know do the alphabet thing, and like they don't have anybody in the last section of the alphabet or hardly. And it's like they've got all their patients in the first section of the alphabet. So it may not be as user friendly for you because you still have all of them going out. And I do recommend that you are clear and clearly auditing or just checking into your statements to make sure that the system is batching them correctly and creating that notification process in the way that you desire. This statement process has changed, and it will change depending on what your other technology is. If you're leveraging patient communication features like text messages, emails, patient portals or portal access, things like that, like systems like Inbox Health, I know we've talked about before, then you're probably going to have a little bit of a different workflow here, but it's still your responsibility as a biller to get in here to make sure things are happening correctly, so on. All right. Okay, so once I have done all of the functions to make sure that the payments and potential for payments are happening, then I'm going to really start to shift my attention to recovery efforts, okay? So this is where the magic happens as a biller. We get to those AR reports, we get into the accounts receivable work, we're starting to follow up on denials, appeals, and all that other stuff. Now you notice we did a bunch of stuff. So this is why, unfortunately, a lot of billers, we get burnt out and you get to the end of that revenue cycle. But it's important, and that's where it goes back to what we were talking about with regards to your schedule and getting yourself organized. Super important that you think about how much time and effort you need to spend in the current situation. Let's say you just have a mess of stuff from not touching it for a while. You might have to spend more time, but like, what is a great maintenance schedule that you could maintain the AR and focus on prevention, focused on, really resolving these rejections and things, cleaning things up more effectively so you don't have so many denials. Okay. So AR in the software can happen in a couple of different places. So we talked about the denial section or the work list. So you've got this denial section. And if I go back to my screen again, I see here I've got my work list, which is the types of functions that I could create that are like, okay, I want to make sure that I keep track of the appeals that I sent out. These are tasks that I've created. I could follow up on those tasks, right? I might know the types of issues that I've created that are like encounters that are missing. Patients had appointment, but there was no encounter created, right? I might be responsible for that. There are opportunities for you to create pretty much any kind of work list you want in here, and you can put those claims, as we talked about earlier, into those work lists and work them from this task list, okay? Other possible ways to work this would be directly from the aging report. So in here, that AR report, or interactive aging, as they call it in here, the interactive accounts receivable report, this one's kind of looks really bad because everything's in 121, but the information is the same, right? So you get your insurance companies, you'll have wherever it is on your aging report, 30, 60, 90, 120, and you have the ability to click in there and then kind of work those items as they present themselves. Now, hopefully, when you get to some of these, you'll be able to say, oh, this was already worked. I see a note, or I see that it's on a work list, or I have a task, because it will tell you that there was a task that you've put in here already, right? So these are all potential ways that you can organize yourself before you have to work through just this holistic interactive aging. So likely when you come to the aging report, what you're seeing here are just the gaps, the things that maybe didn't get into your radar yet, or where you might need to now create some tasks. Okay. So hopefully you get to a list like this, and 7 out of these 8 items already have tasks, and you see one out here that you need to create a new task and actually do some work on it. All right. So I'm not going to get super in like grave detail about what happens beyond that point, because the actual steps to be able to resolve them and so on is going to be dependent upon the issue, and we'll go deep into that another time. So we have gotten almost to the end of our responsibilities as a biller. The last thing that the biller is responsible for is going to depend upon whether you are in charge of yourself or the revenue cycle, in charge of the entire function, or if you have a revenue cycle manager or supervisor above you, you may not be touching this area. Okay. So if I am in charge of myself, I'm the only biller for my organization, I also care about my week reports, like my weekly KPIs, key performance indicators or performance reports, and I care about my month-end reports. So all of those things are going to depend upon what your practice wants to see. You might have a period closing that you do that relates specifically to the entire month. You might have a desire to pull something specific like these payments and adjustments at the end of your week after you've posted all of your payments, right? So those are just possible reports that could be things that you're generating on a weekly basis. You might want to look specifically at cash flow or get a sense of your denials, right? So those are things that might be generated on a weekly or a monthly basis. I hope at a minimum you're doing this on a monthly basis. And so once that's all done, you feel good about what you've monitored in your performance, and you've taken that to the powers that be, whoever wants to review that information. Your responsibility is to use that data to decide where you need to look under the hood. So you're looking at plan for quality audits, a plan for improvements of your process. You're looking at, where are the gaps? Where are the things that perhaps you aren't even thinking about? Like, let's say you've been rocking and rolling and you haven't sent statements. Like, you got all this growing patient AR, right? So those are things that you can start to bring into your awareness after you've reviewed the performance reports and then taken pause for a couple of days. Ideally, you close your month, you look at your reports. The next couple of days, you focus on quality audits or improvements, process improvements, things like that. Really trying to give some attention to where you can plug it in throughout that next month. Okay. All right. So that's it. I say that sarcastically because that's a lot. That's a lot. I know it's a lot. I'm going to look back at my questions here. Oh, sorry, guys. Let's see. Sorry, I'm missing where I am. Okay, here we go. Oh, Oklahoma. Yay. Hi, Anastasia. Anastasia, I like your name. Very cool. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to billing. Hope you like it and hope you get all of the information you need to know about your new role from us, and feel free to let us know where you're struggling. So a tribe in bigger companies, a plastic came to different companies. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a tribe. That is exactly why I gave that breakdown and disclaimer at the beginning of the call, because I've dealt a lot with larger organizations that everything is siloed. Everything is separated. There's no end to end. I do not believe that anybody who is in the world of medical billing, I'm going to stop sharing actually. I don't believe that anyone who's in the world of medical billing should ever operate without a deep understanding of the full picture, because it doesn't matter what you're doing in the revenue cycle, you need to understand the impact that it could potentially have on other folks in your department, because it's a whole department, right? It could be 200, it could be 500 people in that one department, all doing different functions. The reality is the person who's 2 floors from you is probably impacting what you're doing, and you might be impacting what they're doing, right? it's all this reciprocal relationship, right? So everybody has the potential of hurting or helping, right? So it's really important that you understand the full picture so that hopefully we're helping and we're making things better. All right. So great, great, great. Let me see. I love it. Okay. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for plugging that in there. Yeah. See more of what we do here. So, you guys, I am really excited to say that we don't have any other questions in there. You guys have more questions? Any other questions coming up? Feel free to pop it in the comments. If you aren't sure what your question is right this very minute, and you think of it later on, just pop it in. We will see it later on in the day. Put it in there, or you can jump into the Medical Billers Network, which is a Facebook group that we have, and put your question in there. Yeah, and so I would love to know your feedback on what you thought about today's session as well, whether or not you gleaned some awareness, and especially my friend Analog Fog, who requested this particular topic. Let us know. Did it answer the question? Do you feel good about your understanding of a medical biller now that you've seen it through the lens of a software and the potential of a software? If you're doing something with a software, if you're doing something with a software that's a little bit more antiquated, or we'll say challenged in the revenue cycle department, what are the differences you see? And, what are the things that you hope for, help, or would like to see? So I like this question here. Would you recommend having your own software or remoting into the practice software? Oh, let me be honest. If you are a billing company, you are going to struggle with the not being able to take clients on that in their software environment, because so many people, especially during the big EHR initiative, the EHR, not initiative, EHR incentive that took place, it hurt the strength of our billing software because they were so focused on producing all of these EHR systems. All the developers were like so excited about the money that healthcare organizations had that they just produced the crap out of crappy software. And when they did, what it happened to do was water down the potential that we would have to be able to serve our clients better as billing companies and as billers. And so, unfortunately, it hurts a little bit in some cases. So just be very selective about the systems you choose to say yes to. Make sure you are taking a good look at the system. Take a good hard look before you say yes to those clients. And if you have the ability to bring them into your software in any way, a system that that you can be successful in and that you can monitor the performance and all the things better, then do that. Bring them into your own solution if you can. All right. I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that. Iris, I saw they sent me. Thank you for sending me her name. That was Iris's question. I think I closed it out by mistake. I think I hit my keyboard. But Iris was asking about whether or not to use your own software or remote into the practice software. I don't like remoting into anything, but still so many people have antiquated accesses that they don't have cloud-based or web-based systems. And so you have to sometimes remote into the servers, which is annoying. So, but yay, I'm glad it helped. Thank you so much. All right, friends. Well, with that said, we went the whole hour. I had a feeling it was going to be hard during this particular topic because it's just such a meaty one. But I do appreciate Analog Fog and all of you out there who have voted this topic into our plan, because I think that it's very helpful for folks who are trying to wrap their heads around the responsibilities of a biller and really trying to understand what the potential is if you are just tapping into creating a billing process for yourself. So, all right, friends. Thank you. Thank you so much, Larissa, for being here. I'm glad that you guys were able to join us during Lunch and Learn. So yeah, let me know about the Lunch and Learn timing. I would love to know what you think. I believe we are shifting to this lunch time. I know it's kind of not quite, for me, it's not lunchtime. It's almost 3:00 here on EST. We were trying to be able to serve a couple of other time zones as well, with a potential lunch or dinner time, depending on where our folks are in the world. But I'd love to know what y'all think about it, because if you're like me, you're half asleep at 7:00 at night. So you guys are lucky you got the Jasmine that was kind of more plugged in. So yay, I'm glad you like it. Thank you. Okay, friends, have a beautiful rest of the day. We will see you next week. Next week is trivia. So make sure you get yourselves all brushed up, have your coffee ready to go in the middle of the day so that you can be fresh and ready to win because we got gift cards for you. All right, friends, have a wonderful rest of the day. We'll see you next time. Bye.